Hey everyone, welcome back to DemDMs. My name is Matt,
I'm Panda Ghost.
And I'm Fox Ghost.
and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different on the channel, something that we're going to be calling here the Zone of Truth. And really what that is a chance for us to kind of answer some questions from you guys that we've seen on some of the videos recently, as well as kind of address some new things that are coming on the channel. So yeah, if you want to follow along with us, make sure that you're also hitting that like button, subscribing, sneak attacking the notification bell to be notified when videos that we're going to be talking about are going to come out on our channel. But for right now, let's just slide on in. All right, guys. So the first thing that we want to do here is kind of we got a couple questions on our recent post about trying to do some kind of Q&A. We didn't get too many, so in the future, if you guys want to submit your questions, be sure to just put those down in the comment section of any video and put the hashtag Zone of Truth, and we'll be able to find it.
Yep.
So yes, our first question today actually comes to us from someone that's asked a question before on the channel, from Just One Shouting. They say, "Hey, DemDMs, I really enjoyed your adventure writing videos. I liked the behind-the-curtain details of how DemDMs put together a campaign from scratch. I think these tutorials are great for new players and DMs. Will you be making more of these videos or any other videos along these lines?" I think, for those who haven't seen our adventure writing videos and our world building videos, we kind of collectively were writing a story or an adventure that we were, maybe going to do some postings about on our channel and maybe somewhere else as well for like PDF forms of things that we were doing. Obviously things came up. We kind of took a little bit of a break around the holidays to kind of figure out what all we were doing, as well as other things kind of came up with the Legend of Vox Machina reactions and things like that. I enjoyed doing the adventure writing things, and obviously, that's part of what we all like as in D&D. I think, Panda, unfortunately, you're also writing another
Yeah,
adventure
yeah,
right
that's
now.
that's my biggest issue. Like it's I come up with these great ideas for this adventure writing. I'm like, oh, well, now I can't use this in the campaign because half the party, knows what's gonna come next. And
Sure.
I mean, yeah, it sucks, but like it really does interfere with my own DM planning, right?
Yeah. As well as like with the world building and stuff, you're also simultaneously world building for
Right.
your setting. So
Yes.
it kind of it I'm imagining just from the fact of confusion, it's kind of better to have a single
Yeah.
minded on that. Now that's not to say that we're against doing those. If you guys want to see us continue that series, put that down in the comment section. Let us know. It might just be a roster change here on the channel. Maybe we bring in a couple other people or something like that to kind of help build that out. But yeah, if you guys want to see that, you got to let us know. If because we also want to be focused on content that we want to make as well as people want to see. So, and not everything that we want to make, people want to see. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of have to make those choices about what makes sense for us, as well as there's new stuff coming up on the channel, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, that we also don't want to put off. So, but you got to let us know if that's something you want. So, all right, moving on to the second question. This one is from BKBW. And they asked, what is your favorite NPC you've created and why? Okay. So I guess, unfortunately, Fox, you haven't had the chance to run one of your own settings yet.
Correct.
Much, correct?
Yeah, I don't think I have, even for just like one-shot groups, because I typically go for one. If I'm DMing a new group, I typically just grab a pre-made one that I've run a million times and
Sure.
be done with it. So I don't think I've created an NPC
Okay.
yet.
Obviously, for me, I've run various games and created various NPCs and things like that. And I think Panda, similarly, you've created some of your own NPCs that
Mm-hmm.
you've really enjoyed. I think what we'll do maybe here is I think, Panda and I will give our thoughts about, characters from our games. And then maybe Fox, if you want to mention a character either from published material that you've ran or, something that we've done that you enjoyed, we can talk about that. Panda, you want us to get us started here? What's
Yeah,
a character NPC from your game that you enjoyed?
yeah. I was thinking about this long and hard, right?
Hmm.
And I ultimately decided on a character from the campaign that I'm DMing right now, Seekers of Garia. Um, and it's a character that shows up in, I think, episode 4.
Okay.
Introduced in introduced in episode 4, I think. Um, and that is Layla.
Okay.
So originally I was gonna choose Tonali from that campaign, but I'm like, she's good, right? But like, not maybe not yet, right? I like Layla
Sure.
because she was the center of a plot, and it, she. I'll just give some spoilers for this, but so spoiler warning. Um, she is a magically gifted child in this podunk little village, who goes
Hmm.
missing, and the townfolk thinks that a witch has kidnapped her, when
Hmm.
really she just is hiding from a pack of wolves, and when the party finds her, she's being protected by constructs that she has made herself, and it really just gives this "are we being punked here" kind of moment. It just kind of takes the
Yeah.
whole trope of, oh, we're gonna go deal with this witch problem, and just
Hmm.
tips it on its head. Right? It's nice.
Yeah.
She's a nice plot twist at the end.
Hmm.
And even Fox gave me a
Mm.
run for my money with her, with how to resolve the issue of her just using magic willy nilly, right?
Yeah.
Um, by using my
Yeah.
own setting against me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Using your
Yeah. I think.
character background's a
Yeah. Yeah.
good player tip.
Yeah, and I think what was good about that too is like you kind of from just playing through the world a little bit, and those who have seen it probably know at this point, you're kind of trying to go for a more low magic setting,
Mm-hmm. Right.
with a lot of kind of distrust towards those that can use magic.
Right.
My character is wholly based around kind of, at least from what I understand, is fueled by that distrust, right?
Right.
Um, and so there's a lot of like, I think we even said it in the episode, like going into it, we're like, something feels like a little off here, right? Like,
Mhm.
we were in a small town where like small towns have gossip. But what I think was really interesting about that was I at no point thought the girl was like that skilled,
Mm-hmm.
right? I also didn't think that we were going to get out of that with conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Which is what inevitably happened. And I think that also allowed you to open up a kind of storyline in your world with, how she acquired that knowledge.
Yeah.
That was really interesting, I think, both to me and Fox, because
Mhm.
our characters are heavily geared towards that kind of a storyline, right?
Yep.
So yeah, just definitely very cool. Um, you know, Fox, any characters aside from Layla that might stand out for you from Panda's game, or maybe his previous campaign?
Not one that I can talk about at the
Okay,
moment,
little
because
little
I
ahead of
do,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
a little ahead of things. So,
yeah.
um, but I do have one from your game. So if you want to talk about your NPCs from
Sure.
your game, maybe we might have the same character in mind.
Okay. Yeah. So my game, I thought about this too because obviously I ran a first to 20th level game,
Yeah.
and all of it was from this noggin. So there were a lot of NPCs that I had to kind of go through and think about, and for me, a good NPC is someone that, you know, is important to the story, sure, and I think that's obvious to people that are, thinking about it, but also can surprise even the dungeon master with where they go. So, unfortunately, one of the ones that sprung first to mind was, Millie, Panda Ghost, your character's kind of childhood friend slash love interest that
Yeah.
I turned into a homicidal assassin um, through, trauma and whatnot. But I don't. Number one, I don't think I can claim ownership of her. You created that character. I just kind of messed them up. Um, but also, I kind of knew what her storyline was going to be. I think for most of it, there were some surprising moments for sure that I kind of
Like he
just
almost
came up
killed
with
him.
on the spot. Um, but she was, kind of did what I intended her to do, right? The character that, I'm gonna go with here, and I think maybe Fox, you might be thinking the same,
Yeah.
was a succubus named
Yeah,
Doreen.
that's exactly what I was thinking of from your campaign.
Yeah. So, we talked about this in one of our previous videos, but just to kind of rehash it here a little bit, they had gone to Westrun because we were playing in the Tal'Dorei campaign for this one, campaign setting for this one. And I created a bar in Westrun that I wanted to have kind of like a little bit of like a flair to it, so I made it have a kind of secret underground brothel slash den of debauchery, gambling and whatnot. Um, just like secretively that you would have to have said the right password to get into and all these things. Um, and just out of the more so as like a joke more than anything. I was like, well, if any of my players engage in the brothel side of things, I should punish them a little bit or make it funny. So I essentially was like, what's the D&D version of STDs? Probably a succubus. Right. So I created this character purely to be a force to kind of just be like a one-off thing. Unfortunately, Fox Ghost character kind of got caught in the web a little bit with that one.
Just a
And
little.
originally the plan was I was gonna have her kind of be part of the kind of goings on in the town that were kind of tied loosely to the overarching theme of the campaign, and have him attempt to have her instruct him to assassinate someone, right? But the timing wasn't right in that scene. Things didn't go off. That would have been the time that you would have been discovered as being under the control of something, because that would have been completely out of your character,
Right.
right? But because that didn't happen, it was allowed to kind of grow beyond that. And we went into, the next kind of leg of the adventure with you under the effects of this succubus. I was like, well, I don't want it to just wear off, so I created a magic item, in the form of like a flower that she, enchants and puts on your lapel that kind of makes you prolongs that charm effect. And then you went and died in
Yep.
like the next session or two. And so I wanting to do kind of similar to Matt Mercer's resurrection ritual, perform that. Unfortunately, it was kind of early in the campaign. No one had really created bonds enough that it really made sense to do these things. To make this resurrection ritual like impactful. So instead, what I did was I called Fox Ghost off to the side, and I said, "You hear a voice in the darkness, and it's the voice of the succubus saying, 'I will help you come back.'"
Well, don't
Right?
forget, at that point, I didn't know she was a succubus.
You didn't know she was about succubus. That's correct, but she came in the visage of the succubus, I
Right.
believe.
That's when it got revealed.
Yeah, and so I was like, "Well, uh, if you agree to certain terms, she will help you be brought back. Your friends still had to perform the ritual, but she could aid in the ritual where they might have failed."
So
Right?
they got, I believe, if I remember things correctly, they got 2 out of 3 checks, and she was the third.
Correct.
Yeah.
There was they went before they could even go to do the third. I just read the symbol kind of flashed red, and they said you were
Right.
awake. Right. And so that kind of deal tied you even closer to her, made you actually, I gave you a feat that allowed you to do a couple of other things like charm related to other people, but you were now at disadvantage to overcome her charmed effects. So
we
it was,
basically took the Fey touched feat, but made it a fiend touched feat.
Correct. Yeah.
So
And because of that, it just kept digging the hole deeper, right? Until
I was getting really scared actually.
yeah, until eventually this, all comes to a head. Things get discovered of what's going on, um, and then you kind of are able to break free of this effect. Removing the enchantment and all these things and breaking free of that bond, right? But what happens then is, well, now she's out there and she's charmed other people. And so now there's like this almost spy network that she's controlling that's kind of on your every move. And occasionally, like, when Fox was off by himself, I would have just some random, street worker come up and, they had a flower on them and they talked in her voice to these people or whatever, right? So just kind of prolonging, like, nowhere is safe from this succubus. And all of this led to her actually becoming, in the story and kind of retroactively in the canon, the driving force for the main plot line of the story.
Mm-hmm. And you even ended up dragging my plot line into that plot line as well.
Yep. And so, all of that kind of just surprised the heck out of me how much that character grew from literally an STD joke to the one of the big bads of the campaign, right? And it totally was not expected because of, your interactions with her and just how the story progressed. It made sense and it was able to fit. And so, yeah, I don't know if I answered that one for you, Fox, if that was the one you were thinking
No, that
of.
was the one I was thinking of. But
Yeah.
I do want to bring up from your campaign also.
Sure.
We did have Eric,
Okay.
and we had
Eudora.
Eudora.
Yep. Yeah.
And they were both. I mean, we got pretty attached to those two characters.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
and that
it's one of
became
those
a
things.
thing
Yeah,
when
it's one of those things where, like, you really hope that, like, certain NPCs can, become attached to your party, because then you can mess with the party by
right.
messing with those NPCs.
Kind of like what you did with Leosin from
Leosin from the Tiamat campaign, yeah. To be fair, some of that was written in the book. The beheading him at the one point was not, but that was
obviously
so I'm
dirty.
okay with that.
you did him dirty.
Yeah, but for Eudora and Eric, so I had always kind of disliked what WotC describes as the Oathbreaker Paladin,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just never really jived with me. I didn't like the idea that certain tenets of certain oaths were just so easy to break, and because you break that, you're now inherently evil according to that subclass, right?
Right.
Or doing evil things.
And also,
I
top of that, you get rewarded for doing evil.
Yeah.
Like, it's
And
one of the most powerful subclasses of Paladin.
Yeah, and I didn't really like that. I wanted to kind of come up with a way to make an Oathbreaker Paladin without making an Oathbreaker Paladin, if that makes sense. So I introduced them to a character named Eudora pretty early on, like session 3 or 4 in the campaign.
It's pretty early.
Yeah, that they helped, kind of deal with a small cult of Orcus, with under her guidance and leadership, and then traveled with her to Westrun, where Eric, her kind of cohort in the Paladin Order, and subsequent kind of tragic Romeo Juliet situation, resides, and they kind of talk to them, get drop off some knowledge and things like that, and then move on. But while they're gone, Eudora goes off on another job, seemingly following up on another source of the cult of Orcus, which is kind of more dealing with the main plot line here. And she goes off and gets captured, and eventually they figure this out, go after her, but are basically standing there when she dies.
A character from my backstory.
Yes. killed by your their characters, yes. But Eric was there with them at the time. And kind of due to some behind the scenes stuff of like, what was going on with the two of them, as well as what was going on with their temple at the time.
Which is
Um,
also infected with
the succubus, yeah, a
the
little bit.
succubus's influence.
Um,
Shocker.
because of all of that, and her death and just kind of the rage that built up, Eric punches the high priest in the face and basically casts off his holy symbol and leaves the order entirely. But in this case, it's his choice, right? He's not evil, he's just mourning, right? He's broken at that point. And so then I had him kind of go on, off, we didn't see him for a very long time. And then we eventually see him again. He is kind of tied up in some other unfortunate things. He's still, trying to find the person that actually killed Eudora, but not really like, doing anything terrible. Just more so terrible things to himself. Drugs and whatnot, because drugs, are a pretty prevalent thing in the Tal'Dorei campaign world. For those that don't know. And so all of this led to me actually bringing in my soon-to-be brother-in-law to play the character of Eric, because at a certain point I was like, well, I don't have enough time to focus on this character, and it needs to be done right because this character and Eudora were heavily important to the story, as well as kind of a mirror for Panda and Millie a little bit, their characters and how that was kind of transpiring at the same time. So we brought him in, and he kind of picked him up from there. And when they finally met back up with him and played him throughout the rest of the campaign, and then, was able to, was kind of operating under the class of a battle master fighter for most of that, because that kind of makes sense. He just doesn't have the magic, right? He can still know how to attack and things like that. And then eventually at the end of the campaign, he sees the angelic form of Eudora in the final fight, because it's basically a cataclysm. There's demons running amok on the surface of Tal'Dorei, and the Demogorgon is out there beating people up. And she comes in that timely manner and does some damage to some of the demons, but then goes to Eric and essentially re-paladinifies him. Right. But in this way,
renews his oath, I think would be the appropriate term.
Yeah, renews his oath. But what I wanted to happen, or what I wanted to make clear, was before his oath was with the church and with his God, and not that he dislikes his God necessarily, but when he renews his oath now, it's not because of that. It's because he was an Oath of Devotion paladin. He's now an Oath of Devotion paladin to Eudora, right? And to what she stands for and all that stuff, which is still aligned with his god. I know, sappy. But at the same time, it was a good way of me doing what I wanted to do with that character, and kind of, because originally I was like, do I make him a Oathbreaker paladin or a lesser form of an Oathbreaker paladin, and then when he becomes a paladin again, do I make him a redemption paladin? All of that just kind of didn't really jive with what I was trying to do. So, but yeah, definitely two very memorable characters from that game. And I could go on and on about that game, but we don't have the time. So, but yeah, I mean, hopefully, this kind of gives you guys an idea of the types of characters that your players and even you as a DM can latch on to, because I think, yes, it's one thing to make a cool, interesting NPC for your players to bond with, but to even surprise yourself with an NPC, that's gonna kind of even heighten it even more, I think, both in the eyes of the players and in yourself. So look out for those when at all possible. There's no real formula to writing that, right? It kind of just happens, but you can try to do what you can try to do. But hopefully that answers your question. All right. moving on here. Those are the two questions that we got. Again, if you want to ask us questions going forward and be shouted out on a future Zone of Truth, make sure you're putting your questions in the comment section of any video with the hashtag Zone of Truth so we can find them, and we will maybe do this in a future iteration of this. But for now, we're going to move on to a couple of announcements. So for those who might have seen, we put out a couple of polls on our channel recently, kind of trying to get a vibe of where you guys wanted to see us move on to and what you guys wanted to see us do more of, possibly. And a couple of things stood out to us. Obviously, we went through Legend of Vox Machina, and a lot of people came to our channel because of that. And so a lot of, big hype was, we want to see more reactions. You guys, we like that. We want to see more, right? And we're here to provide, as always. So we are happy to announce the winner of the actual reaction poll that we also put out, describing 4 different shows that we could react to, or 5 different shows that we could react to, is going to be The Witcher. We are excited for this one. Now, I believe I am the only one among the normal reactors that have seen it, which might be somewhat of a good thing to kind of walk you guys through. But as we know from our Legend of Vox Machina reaction, sometimes I may mess things up. So be kind in the comment section, please. But we will be reacting to that, and we're going to try to, I think, get caught up so we can watch when the season 3 comes out. We know of some of the drama with some of the major casting in that show, and while we definitely want to, kind of show our support for Henry Cavill, who kind of embodies this character for most of the
Right.
show, we're excited to at least get caught up and see, what all's involved there. And not to say that any of the other, reaction poll winners won't be done. We're going to kind of go through some of them as we go. We might add new ones. We might do different things. But, if you want us to react to a specific show, just know that we're also trying to keep this a little bit in the fantasy genre, just to kind of keep it in the, fantasy D&D RPG family a little bit. So when you're making your call outs, just know that, if it's something that is kind of outlandish from that, we probably won't pick it. So just keep that in mind. But that was not the only thing that came out of these polls. The other thing that we saw was that people wanted to see us do one-shots or adventures of other RPG systems, right? Now we've been primarily focused on D&D on the channel, and while we definitely, I think, still have a passion for that system, we all also know kind of where everything's kind of sitting right now in the space, and also, certain opinions, even within us, don't really jive with what's going on right now. So we're eager to also look at other game systems. Now, we kind of looked around and thought of what would be the best game system for us to run first, because we will try to do a couple of these when we can. And what we decided on is actually the Conan RPG, which is the Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of. Because I know there might be some confusion about which one it is, but that is the one that we will be running. It is a 2D20 system made by Modifius Games. So we are extremely excited to be announcing that we're going to be doing a one-shot of that. We will be doing a session 0 here in the next coming weeks, so be sure to look out for that. And then we will follow that up with, at the very least, a one-shot of this game setting. Now, for those of you who are interested in still D&D actual play content, we are still going to run the Secrets of Garia game. We are currently in the midst of playing that game. We just put out another episode this past Tuesday. So, obviously still in the midst of that. Check that out. It's a great game so far. We're excited to keep going with it. But if there are any other RPG systems that you guys think would be fun for us to try out, let us know down in the comments. We might not know everything, guys, that's out there. So, if there's something that that you think would be perfect to be showcased on the channel, let us know. We'd love to do it. Also, we weren't really planning on doing a rules review for this. We were going to go over like very minor rules as we kind of played along, as well as in the session 0. But if you want to see, you know, kind of a breakdown of the rules, let us know. It might just be us kind of forwarding you guys to some other videos on YouTube that might go over this a little bit more in depth than what we're capable of doing at the present time. But you should be able to get a decent vibe of what the rules are from watching us play it, because I'm going to try to navigate us around to different parts of the system to allow for that. So, and I will be running that one. But yeah, very exciting stuff. Very exciting time to be a DemDM subscriber. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So be sure to smite that like button, subscribe, and sneak attack the notification bell to be notified when any of these videos, or even a video in this series, comes out in the future. But until then, I think that's going to wrap it up, guys, unless there's anything else you wanted to say.
Nope.
All right, well, join us next time we slide into DemDMs. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.